Tonight, an early blast of winter has many scrambling to stay warm.
People's lives are at risk. We saw in this city for the first time in years last January, 2 people froze to death.
A look at how shelters are doing what they can to keep up with demand as frigid temperatures set in. Hitting the slopes in early December for the first time in decades.
It's the first time in over 55 years that we've been able to open so early.
Some ski hills in our region open up for the season, their earliest opening weekend in recent memory. And letting the fur fly.
20 or 30 in there, the usual amount we collect all year just for this day.
The Ottawa 67s host their highly anticipated annual teddy bear toss game. Good evening and thank you for joining us. It is December in Ottawa, so the bitter cold is to be expected, though many were hoping it wouldn't set in quite this early, especially those experiencing homelessness who are struggling to find places to warm up as Ottawa's shelter system is under pressure and temperatures are reaching close to -26 tonight when you factor in the wind chill. CTV's Natalie Van Roy is live with more on how shelters are preparing. Natalie.
Austin, frostbite can happen in minutes and it can be deadly when skin is exposed. At the Ottawa Mission, there are concerns about capacity issues nearly a year after someone died on the streets from the extreme cold.
A mat, and hopefully in a day or two they'll get a bed in one of the dorm rooms upstairs.
At the Ottawa Mission, beds will be set up here for those experiencing homelessness during this latest cold snap.
And we've got people sleeping in the waiting area, very unfortunately, and plastic chairs are on the floor. And what was 10 to 15 people in September and October has now gone up to about 35 or 40 people a night.
Capacity has long been an issue, and there are rising concerns as the temperatures drop significantly overnight.
People's lives are at risk. We saw in this city for the first time in years last January, 2 people froze to death outside. Both of them, it seemed to be mental health issues where unfortunately they didn't know to be inside was a safer bet.
When it's this cold, frostbite can happen in minutes. That's why Peter Tilley is encouraging people living on the streets to get inside.
So our frontline staff will increase their rounds. They'll go into this block here, they'll go down the driveways, they'll go in behind the houses on the back porches and just make sure nobody's at risk of exposure.
Tilley says if you see someone who appears to be sleeping outdoors, don't hesitate to call 311 for help.
311 and the Salvation Army mobile outreach van will show up and bring them to the mission, the Shepherd, Salvation Army, or Cornerstone. We will make arrangements to get them out to St. Joseph Boulevard or to Queen Street or to the YMCA, where apparently there are a few beds available.
And this is just the beginning of the extreme cold. Tilley is hoping there's no repeats of the tragedy from last winter when a man was found frozen to death in Centertown.
For anyone out there, keep your eyes and ears open. Pay attention, perhaps, if you see somebody in distress or somebody cuddled up.
And to prevent frostbite, dress in loose, layered, waterproof clothing, limit trips outside, and limit time outdoors when those temperatures are freezing cold. And signs of frostbite include pins and needles and numbness. Austin.
Yeah, always so important to remember that number, 311. If you do see anyone outside, make sure you check on them, folks. Natalie, thank you very much for this. Well, one positive of this winter weather, the skiing and snowboarding season getting an early start across the capital region. Ski hills have fired up their lifts and businesses say they are really embracing this cold weather, which is crucial. CTV's Kimberly Johnson is back in studio after chatting with some people at the hills today. Kimberly, what are you hearing?
Well, for one hill, Austin, they say it's the earliest they've opened in decades. And since snow can be big business in the nation's capital, the fact that people are able to hit the slopes and trails early this year is already helping immensely.
It's amazing. Usually it's not open this early because there's not this much snow. It's not cold enough. So it's really, really great. I love it.
Calixa Edwards is happy to have the chance to strap on her skis early this year.
It's amazing because often I'm very busy in the winter, so I don't get to ski as much as I'd like. So it's really great to have the opportunity to start early.
At Centre-Vorlage, this is an early start for the Wakefield Ski Hill, which would often see openings later in the month. There are 3 runs up and running, with more expected to be in operation later this week.
It's nothing short of a miracle. We're open 6, 7 of December. It's the first time in over 55 years that we've been able to open so early.
The Hills Ski School director says an extended season is important for business because the conditions allow for lessons and rental programs to start up earlier than in past years. A vital move after the company made major investments in snowmaking infrastructure last year.
It feels great because we've had a couple of dismal seasons in terms of weather where we either had to wait and open late or unfortunately close early, and also allow people to enjoy the outside, which is what we want. Works in everyone's favor.
And for some selling winter sports equipment, the snowy weather is already having an effect.
I would say there's about a 20 to 30% increase in both sales and service. We're definitely seeing a lot more service come in right now, and we're seeing a lot of people want to invest in new equipment.
The owner of Expeditions Wakefield says backcountry skis and fat bikes, which can travel in the snow, are some of her biggest sellers.
There's snow on the ground. It puts people in a good mood. It makes them want to get outside and do the activities. So whether they're renting or buying, I think it's very important for small businesses.
This weekend was the start for many ski hills across the region, including some runs at Camp Fortune and Mont Saint-Marie in Quebec and Mount Pakenham in eastern Ontario, among others. Austin?
Yeah, certainly an exciting time of year for those enthusiasts. Kimberly, thank you very much for this. Now, despite the winter chill, another reminder that the ice on the Rideau Canal is still unsafe, so nobody should be going out onto the ice, and skating obviously is still not permitted. There is some signage that is up. You can see the fencing there as well along the canal. The National Capital Commission says the ice surface is still nowhere near ready for the public. Generally, the NCC says it needs to be at least 30 centimeters thick, which will take more than just this latest cold snap. As we take our first look at the weather forecast and expecting this winter blitz to really continue only for about another 24, 48 hours or so. You can see right now we're at -11. The snow has tapered off in parts of the city, but some are still seeing some flurries. Getting down tonight to -18 degrees again with the wind chill, going to feel closer to about -26. And it's even colder in Bancroft. -24, that is the cool spot. -16 in Kingston. -21 is the low tonight across the river in Gatineau. So make sure you're bundled up if you have to spend any time outdoors. Again, frostbite is a real concern when things get this cool. We will see some sunshine tomorrow, a break from the snow, but a high of just -10 degrees here in the capital, -8 in Kingston, and -9 in Kemptville. -11 is the high tomorrow in Gatineau. It will be chilly, folks, for the next at least 24 hours, so keep that in mind again if you are heading outdoors. Well, turning now to the latest on labor negotiations between Air Transat and hundreds of its pilots right across the country. A strike notice has been issued, and now the airline says flight cancellations will begin tomorrow. CTV's Kimberly Fowler joins us live in studio with the latest on this. So, Kim, where does the airline and the union, where do they stand right now?
Well, Austin, last week, 99% of Air Transit pilots voted in favor of a strike if necessary. And this morning, it looks like that's where things may be going as the union issued a 72-hour strike notice heading into a busy holiday season. Now, with this notice, that means about 700 Air Transat pilots could go on strike as early as Wednesday. The airline says it's working around the clock to reach a deal, but flight cancellations will start tomorrow and ramp up over the following 2 days. In an interview today, the union says it wants a fair deal to attract pilots and keep them as well for those wanting to work for the airline.
We had a collective agreement that expired in 2020 and went to renew that. Unfortunately, there was a acquisition attempt by Air Canada, which left us unable to negotiate a full collective agreement. So there was a short, brief negotiation there. Soon after, we were faced with COVID, and since then, we've lost 180 pilots due to our poor working conditions and job security that they're seeking in other companies.
Now, Air Transat says it wants to get back to the table with the union quickly to avoid delays for travelers over the holiday season. It also says this strike is premature, saying its proposed offer is very generous. In a statement, the airline calls the union's move a reckless decision that does not reflect the state of negotiations. And the airline also says it has plans in place to help travelers amid, again, this looming strike. Austin.
Yeah, something we will continue to keep an eye on. Of course, a very busy time for travel. Kimberly, thank you very much for this. Well, with just a week before Parliament breaks for the holidays, Prime Minister Mark Carney's budget is still stuck in the House of Commons, and it has yet to become law. Meantime, as CTV's Jeremy Sharon reports, Canadians don't believe it's going to help them financially.
It's a book filled with big promises, but Federal Budget 2025 doesn't do enough to help Canadians with their finances, according to a new survey.
The budget has a long-term vision for jobs. Maybe it's put a spotlight on the fact that good economic policy might not make for good politics.
A new Nanos survey conducted for CTV News shows less than 1 in 5 Canadians think the government's fiscal plan will help them financially. In fact, just over 1 in 3 believe the budget will in some way worsen their personal finances.
That's not a very great number for a government that is looking to build confidence in Canadians who are struggling to pay for the bills.
Meanwhile, the budget bill itself is far from becoming law yet.
It's a minority parliament, so getting legislation passed is a challenge.
The official legislation is still stuck in the House of Commons being debated and has several hurdles to cross still, with only a week left on the sitting schedule this year.
You can't actually start to move on those provisions. You can't get the second reading vote. You can't get it passed into law. And so that's going to start to affect real things. Measures that were planned to be implemented in January might not.
The honourable member. A political roadblock the Liberals could continue to face in the new year, even though Green Party leader Elizabeth May is leaving the door open to supporting the Liberal government in the future, despite recently saying her vote in favour of the budget was a mistake.
I'm a bridge builder, and I never say never.
May says her vote moving forward would require a change in policies.
I can't vote confidence on the current policies, period.
And so the Liberals seem poised to start 2026 how they're finishing 2025, fighting to get a major piece of legislation through the House of Commons and without a clear path to survive the next confidence vote when it comes. Jeremy Sharon, CTV News, Ottawa.
And new Angus Reid polling is out, ranking the approval ratings of Canada's premiers. Sitting atop the list, Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew with an approval rating of 58%. That's down 10 points since June. New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt comes in a close second with 56% approval rating. Premier Doug Ford ranked second last of the 9 premiers included with a 34% approval rating, while Quebec's François Legault is at the bottom of the list with just 25%. Now, it is worth noting the poll did not cover the territories or Prince Edward Islands. And an update now to a story we brought you yesterday when dozens of psychologists rallied on Parliament Hill, pushing back against proposed changes to training standards for those in the industry. Today, the College of Psychologists and Behaviour Analysts of Ontario shared a statement saying Ontario is behind other provinces when it comes to the availability of psychologists, and the proposed reforms are designed to increase availability of those in the profession right across Ontario. The college's registrar and CEO says, quote, the proposed reforms, already well established and in practice in other jurisdictions, will maintain the profession's high standards while removing unnecessary delays that prevent qualified professionals from entering practice. He adds, to be clear, these changes are about eliminating barriers, not lowering standards. Our examination, supervision, and oversight requirements remain rigorous and aligned with public protection. In other news, Ontario Provincial Police are warning residents of Smiths Falls of a cougar sighting in that area. Provincial Police say the cougar was spotted on Punamali Side Road, and anyone with small children or pets are urged to be extra cautious. The Ministry of Natural Resources has been contacted, and they are now monitoring that situation. Well, the 25th annual Ottawa 67's Teddy Bear Toss game took place at TD Place Arena, and the team was taking on the Flint Firebirds, but it was all about the teddy bears that sailed through the air this afternoon. CTV's Camille Wilson caught up with some fans ahead of what is always a highly anticipated game. Camille.
Austin, thousands of stuffed animals joined in the hockey action today at the Ottawa 67's Teddy Bear Toss game. The engagement of the fans is next to none as they launch bears, giraffes, and all kinds of stuffed animals over the glass. The goal fans anxiously waited for, and stuffies sailed through the stadium. For Daniel Caron and Emily, this is an annual tradition.
It's bears that I've had since I'm little. They were just downstairs collecting dust. Arena, so I'm gonna give them today for people that are gonna use them more than me.
The annual teddy bear toss game, fans are invited to throw a new or gently used stuffed animal onto the ice after the 67s score their first goal of the game.
I brought a Spider-Man teddy bear because we don't really use it at home anymore.
For this father-daughter duo, it's their 5th year coming.
It's not the first time we come, and it's a really fun game. It's a really fun initiative.
So fun.
And she's really into it.
The stuffed animals scooped up and delivered to various local charities for children in need over the holidays.
I think it's a good idea because kids who don't have teddy bears might be sad.
It's all about the kids, right? Let's go!
Fans also had the option to purchase Brickley Bears at the arena.
We've been doing this for years. It's actually a natural partnership for the Brick because this is Brickley Bear. He's our charity mascot. So a teddy bear toss is just a natural thing. We've been doing this for years and years.
Proceeds from these bears goes to the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario.
That one will come home with us.
Yeah, I have a collection of these. I have 3 at home, and now I'm gonna have a 4th one from the teddy bear toss. I love them so much.
The Bears took to the ice in the second period. Nick Whitehead with the goal.
20 or 30 in there, the usual amount we collect all year just for this day.
Bringing smiles to children that need it most.
It makes me happy that other people are, it's like recycling a little bit. They're gonna have a second home.
Long-standing tradition for a good cause, adopted by the 67s in 2000. The most bears ever collected in a single game is about 2,500, and we're still waiting on this year's total. But of course, the team is hoping to surpass that number. Austin.
And it was an exciting game as well, Camille. The 67s mounted a comeback. We'll have a little bit more on that a little later in the newscast. Camille, thank you very much for this. Well, a big milestone for a young athlete from the Capital Region. 20-year-old Ela Day-Bédard has been drafted by San Francisco in the brand new Women's Professional Baseball League. It's the first pro women's league in more than 80 years. And CTV's Josh Morano has her story.
Ela Day-Bédard fell in love with baseball early and never let go of the game.
I loved sports, didn't want to play in organized sports, so I was at the cottage with my grandparents and I threw a ball and my grandpa told my dad, oh, she has a good arm, you should sign her up in baseball. So they did without my approval, and ever since I fell in love with the game.
That love turned into a pro opportunity when she was selected by San Francisco in the 3rd round of the inaugural Women's Professional Baseball Draft, one of the youngest players selected by the team at just 20 years old.
I didn't get the opportunity to go to the tryouts, so being called fairly high, I was actually very speechless and excited to see my name come out.
The Women's Professional Baseball League is the first of its kind in over 80 years.
We always hoped that there would be a professional league. We didn't know if we'd see the day during Ella's career, but you know, we did, and she's in her prime, so it couldn't have worked out better.
From hours of training with her dad to powering through boys' leagues in Quebec, she achieved her dream of representing Canada.
Ella's a tireless worker. She's very dedicated and disciplined. You know, she started with the girls, and as she kept working and improving, then she moved on to play with the boys till the age of 13, and then genetics caught up. So she started playing competitive with the girls.
All while studying civil engineering at U Ottawa and playing softball with the GGs.
I want to finish my degree, that's for sure, to see what's going to be the best thing next year. Since the season starts in August and ends in September, there's kind of conflict. So it's to see if traveling will be an option to go to and back.
For now, she says she's taking it one day at a time with her eyes set on a new dream.
When I was younger, I always dreamed of making Team Canada. Pro League wasn't really an option. Now that there is one, it's a dream come true.
Josh Morano, CTV News.
In some cases, these could be a result of intimate partner violence because those numbers in Canada continue to increase.
Still ahead, how the homicide rate across Canada is dropping, but not in all parts of the country. We'll have details right after the break. Before we go to break, there's a live look through our Centennial Glass Sky Cam. It appears as though the majority of the snow has subsided. It is currently minus 10 degrees. The number of people sick at home with the flu is soaring across the country. An early flu season is to blame in some provinces, prompting health officials to once again encourage families to take precautions. CTV's Allison Bamford has more on the latest influenza outlook.
Every year, the chill of winter sets in, closely followed by colds and flu.
We expect this to put some pressures on the healthcare system and also in the community as well as schools.
The flu is already keeping Saskatchewan kids away from class, with test positivity gradually climbing. School absenteeism in the province reached more than 12% last week.
The concern is that the coverage for children getting the flu vaccine is relatively low.
A trend seen across the country, including at this Calgary pharmacy.
What we've been seeing is less children coming in for immunizations this year. I'm not sure what's going on, if it's vaccine fatigue still left over from COVID, or if it's a bit of miscommunication or misunderstanding.
Pediatricians in Alberta say influenza is spreading faster and earlier than in recent years, an indication this could be a challenging winter.
This is the worst part of the year for pediatrics.
Further east, Ontario and Quebec are battling a flood of flu cases. In November, the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario faced test positivity numbers 8 times what they were last year, resulting in twice as many hospitalizations. They say most kids seeking care haven't been vaccinated.
Influenza does spread very aggressively across children. And this speaks to the importance of primary prevention of it.
Despite this year's vaccine being a possible mismatch for the mutating influenza strain, doctors say it's still Canada's best bet at protection.
It does do a great job at preventing severe infections.
Doctors say there's still time to get the flu shot before transmission ramps up over the holiday travel season. The vaccination takes about 2 weeks before it starts working. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Saskatoon.
And family doctors met with the Quebec government again over the weekend to discuss Bill 2. Both sides hope to break a deadlock over the bill before the holidays. The law changes the way doctors are paid and has led to an exodus from that province. The Ontario College of Physicians says it has granted certificates of registration to 198 Quebec doctors since October 23rd. The Family Doctors Federation says a meeting with Quebec Premier François Legault this week was productive. Well, the homicide rate in Canada is considered a key metric for assessing violence, community safety, and social welfare. The overall homicide rate in this country dropped in 2024, but not in the Maritimes. CTV's Sarah Plowman breaks it down for us.
Brenda Tadlock-Burke loved crafts, karaoke, and pickleball.
She was full of life and just very creative and loved having fun.
In October 2024, she was living in Enfield, Nova Scotia with her husband, a former RCMP officer. Her daughter says her mom wanted to leave, but he killed her and then himself.
We had explicitly asked her, like, are you safe? Would he hurt you? And it was, no, I am safe.
A new analysis shows last year Canada reported 788 homicides, 8 fewer than the year before.
So homicide in Canada still only represents 0.1% of all violent crime.
The report highlights how more people were killed by a spouse or intimate partner, gang-related homicides went down, and the number of youth charged in homicide cases went up.
The number of youth homicides is very disturbing because we've got young people involved in homicides now where at one time young people were involved in riding bicycles.
While BC, Alberta, Quebec, and Newfoundland had fewer homicides, other provinces saw more. In New Brunswick, the number doubled from 9 to 18. Without more details, it's tough for this criminologist to drill down on exactly why.
In some cases, these could be a result of intimate partner violence because those numbers in Canada continue to increase. Some of these homicides could be drug-related, but unfortunately, we don't really know what the cause is.
Statistics Canada points out how Indigenous, racialized people, and women account for a disproportionate number of victims. People whose loved ones were robbed of time.
Statistics are just numbers and people get lost in the numbers, even myself. But those are human people behind those numbers.
Here in New Brunswick, the Department of Justice and Public Safety says any increase in crime is a concern, that it's analyzing the data to see what actions can be taken. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
The federal government is set to face its latest test in the House of Commons this week, courtesy of a planned motion that the Conservatives are hoping to push through.
Mark Carney has got to stop speaking out of both sides of his mouth.
stop saying one thing in Alberta and the opposite in British Columbia, and get his Liberal MPs to vote unanimously in favor of approving a pipeline to the Pacific.
The motion was shared by Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre online, utilizing similar wording to the MOU between the federal government and the government of Alberta, with both agreeing to fast-track a pipeline in that province under certain conditions. And with the recently signed energy deal with Alberta taking the center stage, Green Party leader Elizabeth May says she's not happy with how the government is running things. Speaking on CTV's Question Period, May called the Fed's recent deal with Alberta devastating.
They made a calculated choice for the sake of, I don't know, at the moment, for the sake of the country, I suppose.
May says she wants to leave the door open to supporting the Liberals, but adds that voting in favor of the federal budget was a mistake. She says she's disappointed that certain climate policies were not followed through with when the federal government penned a deal with Alberta on building a new pipeline. Former Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault told CTV's Power Play earlier this week that May was assured that certain items would not be included in the budget, such as tax credits for enhanced oil recovery.
We were specifically, and there were 2 rounds of negotiations with me, and the first one led to it being in black and white in the budget that there would be no federal subsidies for what's called enhanced oil recovery. And then less than 10 days later, that was specifically promised to Daniel Smith that there would be.
May also adds the Liberals cannot count on her vote in confidence matters moving forward, given the Liberals' current policies. And as the cold weather settles in across this country, many are flocking south for the winter. But this is not a typical transition for those who regularly spend their winters in the United States. CTV's Alex Carpa has more on some new rules that are creating turbulence.
Traveling to the U.S. had been nothing but routine for Angela and Lee Faubert, but their latest crossing in November was a little different.
We were nervous when we were about to cross.
Lee was fingerprinted, his photo was taken, and he was told to fill out an I-94 form in order to enter the U.S.
It was good, except for I got to get fingerprinted, but I mean, the picture was okay, but the fingerprinted thing was a little bit excessive, I think.
Canadians going to the States for more than 30 days must register for their visit through an I-94 form, but some Canadians who have already traveled to the States and filled out the correct forms said they didn't even need it.
Customs officers said, "What are you flagging this paper around for? This is our I-94. She said, "It's business as usual. You don't need that form filled out."
She also said that the only way you could get in trouble if you stay longer than the 6 months days allowed.
With the confusion and changing political climate, others like Eric Fagan, who spent his winters in Florida, has canceled his plans altogether, calling it a tough decision.
We regret that we're not going down in a sense. We met some great people, some great Americans, some great Canadians at the RV parks we stayed at, and we enjoyed our stay down there.
But no matter the situation, one immigration lawyer says it's important to be prepared.
Yes, there's additional scrutiny, but at the end of the day, if you're being honest and you're being truthful and you have a plan in hand, then you should not face any issues entering.
Both couples we spoke to say the process of going into the U.S. wasn't as bad as they thought, but hope there's more clarity and consistency for what's expected of Canadians crossing the border. Alex Carpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
We know that there's a journey, a respectful journey, of more examination, more partnership.
Still ahead, more details on the Indigenous artifacts returned to Canada from the Vatican. How First Nations leaders are reacting when we come back.
Get the latest live local breaking news. Sign up now for our morning and evening CTV News Ottawa newsletter. The best local content from CTV News, Your Morning Ottawa, and News Talk 580 CFRA. Get it all in one place. Sign up now at ctvnewsottawa.ca. The CTV News Ottawa newsletter is brought to you in part by CAA Business.
There's a live look at some of the roads along the Queensway today. You can see that things are moving along quite smooth, but of course it is very cold out there, and there's the potential for black ice. So if you are on the roads, make sure you give yourself plenty of time and drive safe. The big story is that extreme cold as we now take another look at the weather forecast. A lot of folks were out there braving the freezing conditions over the course of this weekend. Here's a look at a Christmas tree farm in North Gore. This is the Hillcrest Tree Farm. Of course, a fire alongside your hunt for a tree is probably essential when it is this cold. But you see everyone having a good time and getting into the festive spirit. That is what it is all about. So here's a look at the satellite radar showing that for the most part that snow has left our region. It has moved along and we will get some sunny conditions. More on that in just a little bit. A look across the country, -3 right now in St. John's, -7 in Charlottetown. It is very cold in Goose Bay, -17 degrees, but they are familiar with those conditions. Maybe not so much around Ontario for this time of year. A bit early to see -17 degrees in Sudbury. We're at -10, -19 in Timmins, and only -3 in Toronto. Out in Saskatchewan, we've got -13 degrees and some flurries in Regina, -15 in Saskatoon, -11 in Edmonton, -30 in Yellowknife, and -31 in Baker Lake. That is horrible, but that's what northern Canadians, again, they're used to that. So it's not too out of the ordinary for them. It's 10 degrees in Vancouver. They are being spoiled by some double-digit degree weather. We're getting to a daytime high tomorrow of about -10 degrees. I mentioned the sunshine, but it won't really feel all that nice with that high of -10 so early in December. It's a similar story along the Ottawa Valley. Even colder tonight, though. -21 is the low, feeling closer to -30 when you factor in the wind. Along the Seaway, the low tonight, -18 degrees, a chance of flurries carrying over, and then sunny tomorrow with that high of -10 degrees. A quick look at the 7-day forecast shows that, yeah, we'll be in the grips of this cold snap until about Tuesday night. You've got overnight lows on Monday, 18 degrees, -18 degrees, and then -17 on Tuesday. The snow returning in full force on Wednesday, but much warmer. -1 is the daytime high, -5 on Thursday, and then hopefully getting some sunshine Friday into next weekend with highs of -7 degrees and -10 on Sunday. Well, the return of dozens of Indigenous artifacts by the Vatican this weekend marks a significant and poignant moment in the relationship between the Church and Indigenous communities. It was also a fulfillment of the promise that was made by Pope Francis and kept by Pope Leo. CTV's Christine Long explains.
In the snow, a celebration for the return of cultural artifacts flown in from Rome that were taken over 100 years ago. There were also tears at Trudeau Airport because these items are a sacred extension of the communities who created them. Among them, a rare, century-old kayak from the Western Arctic.
We believe that there are 14 that have Inuit provenance. The kayak is the one that we know the most about. We're looking forward to being able to unbox the items in the coming days.
Many of the 62 artifacts have yet to be fully identified and hopefully represent the first wave of more to come, says Victoria Pruden.
They were part of a display from 1925. And while the Vatican only identified one Michif Métis Abduosan item, we know that there's a journey, a respectful journey, of more examination, more partnership, more involvement.
Discussions between First Nations and Pope Francis began in 2022 to finally return these artifacts. The Assembly of First Nations says this repatriation is dedicated to the elders and to the victims of residential schools.
Survivor, whether they're here or in the spirit world, we lift you up, and to every single First Nations family who has either been, or their relative been in residential school or day school. So I lift up every First Nation person today, and then all this work is for you, that we begin to tell our history.
A chapter in Canadian history that Mark Miller admits is very dark.
The continuous denial of culture is a perpetuation of the cultural trauma that continues to rob and steal First Nations, Inuit, Métis peoples from their history and, by extension, the future of this beautiful land that we're all on.
These artifacts are going to the Canadian Museum of History in Ottawa for study and identification.
Somebody made these moccasins that we're bringing home thinking that they were only going to be used for a hunt. They didn't know that hundreds of years afterwards, us young ones would be standing there learning about how to remake those belongings and use them, revitalize our cultures, our languages, and our protocols.
But first, ceremonies of healing. Christine Long, CTV News.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Finally, you call it what you want.
Just ahead, remembering an architectural titan, Frank Gehry, dead at 96. An icon in the world of architecture who designed some of the most awe-inspiring buildings ever constructed has died. Frank Gehry was the most celebrated architect of his time, and as CTV's Heather Wright tells us, among many of his masterpieces is the Art Gallery of Ontario.
His buildings have reimagined cities and transformed skylines. Part art, part architecture, always recognizable as a Frank Gehry.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Finally, you call it what you want.
Born Frank Owen Goldberg in Toronto, Gehry first developed a love of building at the family hardware store, where he would create tiny cities using nails, screws, and scrap wood. In 1947, the family moved to Southern California. Doctors had told his ailing father he might not survive another cold Canadian winter. It was in California that Gehry's career began. His most notable design of this time, his own home, experimenting with metal, plywood, and chain-link fence. In 1997, Gehry's international reputation took off with the Guggenheim Museum Bilbao, described by some as the greatest building of our time. From there, he designed the Walt Disney Concert Hall, the Dancing House in Prague, and the Fondation Louis Vuitton in Paris. At 75 years old, Gehry began his first ever project in his native country.
I never expected to even do a building in Canada.
The redesign of the Art Gallery of Ontario, which today the AGO called a transformation and a masterpiece.
It feels like a homecoming in many, many ways. That does move you. It does make me want to be there. And I'm grateful that somebody thought to bring me there.
Gehry also collaborated with the Mirvish family to build Forma, an at times controversial project in Toronto's entertainment district that has not yet been completed.
We cut the ribbon.
Gehry's innovative designs were not always commercially viable. Several projects scrapped due to budget constraints. Still, he remained a dreamer. His work now dots cities in more than a dozen countries, a lasting legacy of art, function, and innovation. Frank Gehry was 96. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
When we come back, gripping scenes in Hawaii as lava spews from one of the most active volcanoes on the planet.
The magic of the holidays is here, and this year the need is greater than ever.
Let's ensure every child in our community feels the joy with CTV and Move 100's Toy Mountain.
Together with the Salvation Army, we can help spread cheer and make a child's wish come true.
Drop off any new unwrapped toy to the designated drop-off locations or make a monetary donation online.
For all the details, visit toymountain.ca, presented by Donnelly Automotive Group.
The Bell Media building is lit up. It is bigger and brighter this year, thanks to our friends at Christmas Decor from Nutrilon. And in tonight's got ahead of myself, a little too excited about tonight's big picture. Lava spewing from one of the most active volcanoes in the world. It actually knocked out a remote camera in Hawaii after erupting from dusk until dawn yesterday. Take a look at these shots. Officials say the lava fountain reached upwards of 100 feet. The Hawaiian volcano has been erupting intermittently for nearly a year, and you can see the moments here as lava and ash from the Kilauea volcano hit the camera as well, and it eventually knocked it out of service. Just incredible shots out of Hawaii. Turning now to some of the other stories that you need to know, and for this we want to bring in CTV's Kimberly Fowler. Kim.
Well, we'll start with a pretty tough stretch for the Ottawa Senators, and last night they played against the St. Louis Blues at the Canadian Tire Centre.
For Giroux, Claude Giroux with a shot, hope for the save for Trevor.
Fabian Zetterlund on the rebound makes this one close late in the game, but the Sens, they would run out of gas for the comeback bid, falling 2-1 to the Blues. Ottawa has now lost 4 of the
last 5 games in regulation. They'll look to get back on track on Tuesday, and that'll be at home against the New Jersey Devils.
To keep the Firebirds alive! No! The 67s win it!
Check that out. Celebration by the goalie there, Ryder Fedorov, as the Ottawa 67s come back after going down 2-0 to the Flint Firebirds today at the Teddy Bear Toss game. Now, the Barber Poles, they win 3-2 in a shootout, and it was early in the second period when they scored the Teddy Bear Toss goal. The stuffed toys will be delivered to CTV and Move 100's Toy Mountain. The 67s play next Friday in Oshawa.
Migraine is a very common problem. So up to 40% of women and 20% of men at some point in their life will have migraine.
A new report from the University of Calgary and the Barrow Neurological Institute in Phoenix recommends emergency departments treating people with severe migraines should use anesthetic occipital nerve blockers to target the base of the skull to numb the area and dampen pain signals. The report will also update guidelines for the American Headache Society, the first time that has happened since 2016. And the city of Milan is getting into the Christmas spirit as it prepares to co-host the 2026 Winter Olympics in about 2 months. Hundreds gathered outside the Duomo Cathedral to watch thousands of small white lights light up the night sky against a historic backdrop. And again, the Winter Olympics, they will be getting underway on February the 6th. Definitely looking forward to that. I love the Olympics. Yeah. I'm one of those people that becomes an expert on every sport, no matter what it is, as long as it's on TV.
Oh, what's your favorite?
Curling.
Curling, really?
Yeah, that's not an obscure sport, but I do love it.
Yeah, fair.
But then I become an expert on every type of figure skating, the edges that they use, the jumps. Yeah, right. I love it.
I was going to say hockey. I mean, that's pretty basic Canadian stuff, but can't go wrong. Figure skating's a great one, too.
Yeah.
Coming up, an eye-watering auction. We'll tell you just how much money Francis Ford Coppola's rare watch fetched at auction. And spoiler alert, it was a record breaker. But before we go to break, there's a live look through our Centennial Glass Skycam. It is still minus 10 degrees.
The National Capital Region is jam-packed with incredible experiences you don't want to miss. Hey, I'm Sneha Taylor, your iHeartRadio Weekender, powered by Barrhaven Ford. Get the inside scoop on all the biggest and best events every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday on CTV, Move 100, Pure Country 94, TSN 1200, and News Talk 580 CFRA. iHeartRadio Weekenders is powered by Barrhaven Ford, Ottawa's newest and largest Ford dealership, and Ontario's #1 Ford EV dealer.
Hairstyles, courtesy of Salon Fiorella.
Here's a recap of the top local stories we're following right now.
People's lives are at risk. We saw in this city for the first time in years last January, 2 people froze to death.
Ottawa is in the grips of an early winter cold snap as homeless shelters see demand surge and struggle to keep the city's vulnerable population warm.
It's amazing. Usually it's not open this early.
One of the earliest openings in years for some ski hills in our region as skiers and snowboarders soak up the December snow.
Kicked out by McCurry, and the 67 score! Let it rain!
And this one's always a blast. Rain and Teddies at TD Place. The 67s host their annual Teddy Bear Toss game, which saw thousands of fluffy fellas hit the ice. One last look at your weather forecast and your wake-up weather, which, warning, will be very cold, minus 18 degrees and feeling closer to minus 26 when you factor in the wind, although just 10 kilometers an hour is what we're expecting. The sun will be shining, so it's not all doom and gloom, but again, very cold. Daytime high of minus 10 degrees. Warming up slightly on Tuesday, but a 60% chance of snow. Minus 6 is the high, and then minus 1 on Wednesday, but really picking up in terms of flurries. Then those will taper off into Thursday with a high of minus 5 degrees, minus 7 as we make our way into the weekend. But the overnight lows will remain very cold for the majority of the next 7 days. Finally for us tonight, a ridiculous price tag for a timepiece.
Yeah, an anonymous bidder now owns a prized possession of Academy Award-winning director Francis Ford Coppola.
This is Coppola's unique wristwatch. It's an FP Journe FFC prototype, and it's sold at auction for $10.8 million US. That is insanity. Phillips auction in New York actually sold the watch, and it is the highest price ever paid for a watch. Just for reference here, of the 1,200 homes that are currently listed on Realtor.ca in Ottawa, the most expensive is just shy of 6 million Canadian. So you could buy 2 of those.
Yeah.
Or you could buy a watch.
Yeah, I think I'd buy 2 houses, but I'd be a little smarter with my money, but that's incredible.
Absolutely.
For a watch.
For a watch.
Yeah.
It just tells you the time. No, like, heartbeat or anything. It's not even a smart one.
People have phones for that.
That's true.
Right?
Good night, everybody.